It's late, so we'll kick off now. Nice to meet you all. I'm Riya Grover, founder and CEO at Sequence. Really delighted to have this incredible panel here, who I will hand over for introductions in a second. But really, today is about kind of very honest and real conversations about AI in the finance tech stack, where the teams at Rillet, Spendflo, and Sequence are leveraging AI, where we're choosing not to leverage AI and instead kind of rely on robust deterministic calculations. But much more so, like, what is it to really design a finance grade agent? Where do we think about embedding agents in the actual workflows that your teams are conducting? How do these come to life? And some things top of mind for me as I think about this topic, and actually, Stephen, one that I've chatted with Nick at Rillet about a lot in the past as well is, we don't want black box AI. We want to make sure that if we're embedding AI in these workflows, there's true auditability. We can understand the actions agents are taking, and also the actions that they're not taking. Because if they're not doing something, you need to know that they're not doing it. We need to think about human, we use this word human in the loop all the time, and it's a little bit buzzwordy at this point, but it's actually such an important concept, particularly in financial operations, because we need to, as players in this space, be designing workflows that mean humans and agents can hand over to each other just the way that humans and humans hand over to each other in workflows. And I think it takes a lot of thinking to think about how you make that happen successfully in your platforms. But for me, this is a really key piece to get right. And I think the last kind of piece as well is, just really also talking a little bit today about, what our roadmaps look like. And, we are at a really interesting point in this journey and this kind of rapid evolution in the capabilities of LLMs. Where have you chosen to invest so far, and where will you be investing in the future? So we'll get into all of this, but for now, I'm going to hand over to each of our panelists to introduce themselves. And then in terms of format, we're going to do kind of 8 to 10 minutes of demos of each platform. And I'm going to hold you all to it. And then we're going to have a quick Q&A at the end. I have a few questions, but I also really want to open it up to our audience today. So please, everybody have some in mind as everybody speaks through the demos. Great. Stephen, do you want to kick off?
Cool. Happy to. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Really excited for today. Thanks for joining. So my name's Stephen Hedlund, head of finance here at Rillet. Really, we're the AI native ERP. So really think if NetSuite were built today with modern systems and a tool you actually like using, frankly. So we've raised over 100 million from Sequoia, Andreessen, Iconic, and have companies like Mercer, Windsurf, PostScript running on platform today. So really excited to be here with partners Spendflo and Sequence, and excited for today.
Sid, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm Sid. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Spendflo. We're an AI native procurement platform. So we help companies all the way from their intake to PO, and we orchestrate the process across finance, legal, IT, and security. So we work with companies like Turo, Uber Freight, Robinhood, and a bunch of others to help automate a lot of their procurement processes. And I'm really excited to show you guys what we have in store.
Go for it,
Awesome.
Enda.
Hey everyone, Enda here, co-founder and COO at Sequence. We are the AI-powered billing engine for modern B2B finance teams. So we are essentially the revenue layer, which sits in between your CRM and your ERP, and we power billing, CPQ, revenue recognition for the likes of Legora, Runway, Instant.io, Bridge, and Cognition. So really excited to show you all the product, and I'm sure there are many familiar faces here in the audience.
Great. So I think, Ender, you're kicking off with a demo first of Sequence. So I will hand over to you for that.
Awesome. I keep the mic. Cool. Well, kicking things off. All right. So let's paint the picture here a little bit. Most of you, I'm going to assume, are either finance operators or have some exposure to the finance operators process when it comes to billing for contracts, invoicing, and revenue collection. So in this case, I am the finance operator and I've just logged into Sequence. And I'm looking right now at all of the live contracts that exist in my business, which are represented in the form of billing schedules. So there's really two entry paths into Sequence. We have a CPQ product, a quoting workflow, which I'll go into in a minute, which allows us to connect directly to what the sales teams are doing. We're very used to hearing from finance teams that great, you've solved billing and invoicing for us, but actually a lot of our problems happen upstream with sales going rogue, signing custom deals, bespoke agreements, and on the finance side, you just get landed with a signed contract trying to figure out one, what did we just agree to? And two, can we actually bill our invoice for it? So I'm going to assume that in this case, the finance operator has actually just received a signed contract from sales. Actually, we've just received 4 signed contracts. It was a big week. And I'm going to come in now to the Sequence platform in the top right-hand side here, upload contracts, and I'm going to drop in 4 new signed deals into my platform. So I've got my agentic watchtower here where the Sequence agent is running an analysis against those contracts. What this is doing under the hood is it's looking at the SKUs that we've set up for you as the customer, which represents all of the products that get sold across your customer base. Sequence's core differentiator is the level of pricing flexibility that we can offer B2B teams on the go-to-market and finance side. So let's just take an API call product, for example. This is an example of a volume-based tier where number of API calls, as it increases, the unit price decreases. But we can play around with a dozen different pricing models. Maybe you have graduated pricing, or maybe you've got seat-based pricing. You can even go to the level of defining a custom proration strategy for added or removed seats mid-month. When we go into evaluations with B2B teams with custom pricing, we're very used to hearing, well, like we've got some very complex deals. We're not quite sure if, your software is built to handle this. And what we say is this, like, send us your most complex deals. And don't even send them to your account executive before the call. Just jump into the meeting live and say, here's a couple of the pricing samples I have in mind. Here's some of the complexities we're dealing with in our custom deals. And just watch some of the examples that we can spin together. So my agent has ran here in the background, and I'm going to review one of these deals. So let's take Ashby as an example. We've just signed Ashby. So the agent has ran against the contract, and I'm now going to review the details that it has analyzed. So it's immediately flagged here. Cool, the customer actually already exists, so I can map that. And now I'm going to see whether the agent has correctly pulled out the pricing terms. So August 1st, correct. We have a $4.99 fixed product billed in arrears. So let me see here. That looks correct. I've got the setup fee here. So let me go ahead and map that to the implementation fee. So now I'm telling the agent that anytime we see a setup fee in a contract, that's what the SKU represents. So the agent now has that context. And I also have this usage-based product as well, which I can see corresponds to the API calls SKU. So let's map that as well. I also noticed that there's this 1-month custom duration, which we call a phase in Sequence. Anyone here who is dealing with custom B2B deals will have some form of multi-year contracts, free trial periods, price ramps. So phases are just one small example of how the Sequence data model is built with that flexibility in mind. Because what you'll see with a lot of legacy billing platforms is that it's the edge cases that ultimately break down your revenue collection process. And it's no good if you can only support 80 to 90% of your contracts, because then those other 10 to 20% live in a spreadsheet. It breaks down your rev rec, it breaks down your ARO reporting. So this has been a pretty non-negotiable stance that we've taken from the beginning. So in this case, the agent has actually correctly created a 1-month trial period, and it's noticed that there is this line item in the contract and mapped that correctly. So I have this optional review stage now. That all looks good. Now I'm going to create the billing schedule, which is ultimately what's going to kick off my invoicing process. So let's view the schedule. This is kind of my last review step before invoices start to get generated for me to review. Got my trial period. That all looks good. I'm pretty happy. Payment terms, if I want to customize them for this particular customer, I can, but I'm happy enough with this. So let's start the schedule. So starting the schedule is ultimately what kicks off the invoice generation process. And by the way, you'll see kind of how quickly this is all happening. I'm slowing myself down by explaining it, but we really go from signed contract to invoice generated in less than a minute of that being uploaded. So let's pop open one of the invoices. So we now go into our nice invoice editor view where you've got a side-by-side view of the invoice next to any optional fields that I might want to add, like a memo, PO number, a reference, etc. I've got my integration stack here on the right. So we have Stripe, you've got Salesforce, you can upload the contract here as well if you want to. We also have an activity log. So as I start making edits to this invoice, I can actually see that activity log in real time. So I might just add in like an implementation fee for $500. Get the Zoom thing out of my way here and get that to move. Anyway, there we go. Let's get the implementation fee in here, 500. Add that in, and I'll start then to see this activity log. So a lot of finance teams, especially those moving up market with bigger teams across RevOps and finance, will want to see this audit log of when users have made changes across the platform. This then flows into our revenue recognition module, which gives finance teams a breakdown of what's been recognized across the period. Every product in Sequence can have its own recognition method. So coming into the API calls example, I can play with straight line, milestone, usage, point in time. And this then gives me a lot of granularity when it comes to recognized, deferred, billed, and unbilled revenue. I've got a nice waterfall view then, which breaks down how much revenue I've actually received by customer. And I've got my journal report here as well, which I can actually click into. I can make adjustment journals if I want to, before that actually goes out to the customer. We then also have deferred revenue here as well. And we also have just released our chatty Dunning RevRec agent, which actually allows you to interact with these journal reports and revenue waterfall breakdowns. So for example, what I might do here is I might say incident.ao added 5 seats this month. How does this impact my deferred revenue? To Ria's point at the beginning, nobody wants a black box, especially when it comes to invoicing and RevRec. So instead of having the agent potentially hallucinate and just fire off journal entries into your ERP, we prefer the co-pilot approach for things like this, where processes like RevRec, like Dunning, like contract intake lend themselves really well to having an agentic co-pilot supporting the finance operator. We've seen teams upload all of their ASC 606 and IFRS 15 docs to do exactly what I've just shown in GPT or Claude. So this kind of in-app AI co-pilot has been a game changer for our customers. No, I'm running short on time, so I want to keep this pretty quick. I will just call out quickly the quoting side as well. We've had a pretty opinionated stance from day one that decoupling sales and finance entirely leads to friction at scale. What happens 3 to 4 years into a customer's journey is you're supporting legacy pricing models in an AI world. A lot of teams now are playing around with some form of usage. You hire a new VP of sales, they have their opinions on what the new pricing model should be. And what happens is finance can often become a bottleneck where they're saying, actually, we can't support certain pricing models on the billing side, or we don't have visibility on what's happening on the go-to-market side of the process before a deal is signed. So we have a Notion style quote in editor, which allows you to spin up very flexible quotes. We also have roles and permissions, so you can set sales reps to only be able to interact with this side of the platform, but set up very flexible pricing proposals for customers, which will then flow directly into billing schedules. Once that's been signed within Sequence, we have our own e-signature module. The finance operator can actually come into the dashboard and convert the quote directly into a billing schedule. So that sales to finance handover gets fully streamlined, and go-to-market, RevOps, and finance have one system of record for the revenue workflow from the CRM right through to the ERP. And again, that's closely integrated with your CRM, your ERP, your sales tax, your payments engine. So you have one core system to power your revenue journey. I think I've probably eaten up my time, so I will leave it there, but more than happy to go into more detail here with anyone who's interested. This was very much a whistle-stop tour and only kind of a surface level view of everything we've been building across the platform.
You're perfectly at time. So nice work there. I was about to chime in. Stephen, do you want to take it away with a Rillet demo?
Yeah, of course. No, thanks, Inda. That's what we've been partners now for like what 6, 12 months or something like that. I've seen platform before, but that was the deepest I've gone. So that was cool to see. You guys have done a lot of work from when I saw it 12 months ago.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been an awesome year for us.
Cool. Awesome. So you're looking at Rillet here. Like we said, like Rillet is kind of full ERP. So I think full replacement for kind of a NetSuite or Sage. Today, I really want to make sure we're spending time on like the AI agent piece specifically. So the way we think about AI kind of similar to Sequence is we want to show you where it's working in platforms, so you always know like what Rillet is doing and not kind of this black box. So we think about it in kind of a couple different ways specifically. We think about using AI as it comes into the platform. AI loves good, clean, structured data. So we've built our own integrations ourselves, like with Stripe, for example, to bring all the data in and reconcile it and be able to query on it directly. Like, let AI ask what, customers churn this month, who's the biggest customer, right? Who's at risk of churn, things like that. You need that detailed, clean, structured data coming in to be able to do that. We don't use AI directly within the platform for like journal entries, for example, right? Kind of Inda said, like, you don't necessarily want the AI guessing what the rev rec is, right? It's much better to use deterministic, really thoughtful software with start, end dates, amounts to both chart, the rev rec or to chart the, prepaid expenses, fixed assets. Like you want smart algorithms doing that versus AI kind of, guessing at that. And then we use AI specifically kind of on the back end as well to do reporting. We'll use AI to quickly to book accruals for you, kind of estimate journal entries. You can also then use it as well to kind of like read underlying bills and do prepaid expenses. And there's quite a lot you can then do on the back end with AI coming out of the platform, but we're very thoughtful on how we apply it directly. So here we're looking at kind of Rillet home screen. When you log in, we want to look specifically at what we call our data lab here. So you can think of this as about kind of like your custom report builder within Rillet. So you can obviously do kind of manual, do your click-throughs, different transaction types, assign your filters, or you can quite literally, we call our agent Aura AI within Rillet, is you can just ask Aura to show me all expenses by vendor. You'll give kind of Aura a second to think, and it's going to come back and pull all of your expenses by vendor here. So that's, cool trick, right? But what if we want to go farther, right? What if we want to do it for, last year, right? So I'm going to say, do this for last year. Give it a second to think. It's going to come back and show it to me for 2024. Well, what if I want it by month, right? Let me try it. Can I do that? Yep, there we go. So now you can see very quickly within, what is it, like 15 seconds, I've got all my expenses for last year by month, right? Now I can then save this report for future use. I can export it directly to Excel. We say often here at Rillet, like we want to get you out of Excel as much as possible, right? Get your kind of manual schedules into the system. And also like as a finance professional, Excel really is like one of God's gifts, I believe pretty strongly. So we know like at the end of the day, you're gonna want to get these things to Excel, right? So we've spent a lot of time in Rillet making sure Excel exports are very clean, right? No merge cells, no kind of plus 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 formulas, right? Like in a state that you can use and be helpful for you kind of directly out of the box. And we can do all kinds of other fancy stuff with this, right? So let's say, oh, now I want to, I don't know, add the GL account and add departments, right? So the AI retains the kind of natural language search and then lets you continue to operate on it directly here. So I think, not to go on a stage or, box, whatever, but this I hope is the future of all reporting, right? Where you just start with kind of natural language, let the AI build your SQL, your Excel, maybe even like slide deck someday, whatever it is, but then you can continue to operate and iterate on it as you go. The other one I want to show directly is like an accruals use case, right? So for the accountants in the room, accruals are typically one of the banes of our existence, right? It's always a pain to figure out what vendors did I miss, what should the amount be, what are the schedules, how do I estimate it? So here I can ask Aura directly, what accruals do I need in this particular month? Rillet isn't going to look at your past history, look at what vendors are missing here, look at the history for those vendors, and then provide you an estimate. And once again, like we don't want this to be a black box of like what's going on here. Instead, want to be able to show you, hey, this vendor, Gong directly, we'll provide a link back to Gong. So you can go and look through these transactions and see, is this correct? Right. So let's take a look at like 1Password, for example. It's saying the expenses over the past two bills, about 13,500. Last bill was 12,000. Let me click into 1Password. Let me go and look at these transactions. I can see, these last couple of bills. Yep. I can verify the 12 and 15. That's the 13.5. Yep. So you can see this, is correct here, right? It's not just hallucinating, making up numbers for me. I can then also ask the AI directly to book that entry. It'll book the entry and the reversal accordingly. This also exports. You can attach it to the journal entry that gets created. Another good use case is you can both do flex analysis. You can ask for like top vendors. Another one I like to ask is like what customers churned last month. So what it'll do here is it'll look through once again like your prior customers and pull kind of that churn directly. I'll let it think for a second, but let's say once again, I'm like, is this correct, right? Is this accurate? Like, how do I know? Rillet will link the source data right here. So I can click in and see the report this is coming from. So in this case, it's by MRR, $1,000 from Walmart. Hopefully that's not real, right? That would be very sad. Nice big customer there. I can look here and see Walmart. It looks like 12K. So let me do MRR and just confirm. I'll click on that again for October. Can see Walmart. Yep, there's 1,000 right there. And so that's what we want to do all throughout the Rillet platform is like, can I verify this is working for me or not? And so those are just a couple different use cases. It gets much more technical than I'm able to. We have a quite a few AI PhD engineers from both Harvard and MIT that have built a lot of this, but there's actually quite a few like different agents working in the background for each of these. We're working on some better visuals so you can actually see like which agents are answering the question for you. It's going to be pretty cool to see. But we've got agents that both like reconcile the cache for you and like will show directly which of the cache transactions are reconciled by an agent and even show you like a confidence interval about how he matched it or not. Like I said, we've got the AI agents at the data lab, also AI agents that are scanning for like your prepaid schedule, for example. Well, tools like Ramp will pull in the PDF from Ramp. The AI agent will read the bill directly. And if there's a service period on that bill, it will enter into, we'll do the Spendflo as well. Like it will enter that into Rillet directly. So you can do it, directly in platform there. So pretty cool. Like I said, we like to have both kind of I don't know if it's like in your face, the right way to say it, but like the ChatGPT experience for kind of AI, as well as like it should be working in the background for you, right? Like you shouldn't even know. You should see incredible automations from, Spinflow and Sequence and Rillet kind of interacting with each other, AI kind of acting as an intermediary layer and just automating things you don't even know it's doing. We still want to like surface those to you so you can check and verify it's accurate, but it should be doing things for you in the background without you having to ask and prompt it, right? So that's Rillet. Like happy to like answer questions on it, but that's kind of how we think about AI within Rillet and just a few examples of how it's done. So I think Sid, it's over to you.
Awesome.
Awesome
Thanks,
timing.
Stephen.
Again, Sid, no pressure.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm like both of them did a fantastic job. Uh, but thank you for that, guys. That was two beautiful demos, and I love the way that you guys have thought about AI in the system. It's actually fairly similar on that approach as well, from our side. Just a quick context on our end is that with Spendflow, typically what happens is procurement is essentially across multiple stakeholders in that ecosystem: finance, IT, legal, security, and infosec. So with Spendflow, you can actually integrate and orchestrate your process across all of these systems in the workflow. So that's where we actually start. I'd say start with the demo as well. So let me just present my screen really quick. So very quickly, right? Like as soon as you log into Spendflow, one of the things very similar to what and Steven showed, we actually have access to your ERP data, your CLM data, your data, and your risk management tool. So you can actually ask questions across all of these systems. We also have the cool thing about Spendflow and where we differentiate is that we actually have over 100 different integrations to all the SaaS tools that you're actually using. So you can get real-time license usage across them as well. So I know like CFOs like this is like view my software license utilization. Making spelling mistakes now. So let's see if it corrects it. Uh, so while that's loading up, one of the things that I really like showing off is um, one of the key pieces about going live with any system, with any vendor management or procurement system is your procurement, all your contracts are actually decentralized across the entire landscape. So we actually have a really cool contract agent that's running in the background. Sorry, that's running in the background. And at the same time, you can actually import it from a Google Drive. So you can just actually point the agent to a Google Drive folder, for example, and it'll upload all of the information, categorized as if it's an MSA, an agreement, NDA, and actually see if it's live or expired, and create your vendor, all your vendor contracts as well. So this can, for one of our customers that we did this, we did like over a 1.2 TB file. It took a little while, but it actually helped maybe speed up their entire onboarding process by at least a couple of months, right? Before AI, somebody had to like extract this information, read it, key it in, and that process takes forever. So as like very similar as well to make sure that this is actually readable and on that side. So you can actually see all your agreements. It'll be ingested by our contract agent. You can actually see that you'll have information around license, agreement type, all of it on a SKU level information. And you can actually build the schema for your contracts inside Spendflo as well. So it's really easy for you to store along the way. So one other piece that I really want to emphasize is as we've now centralized your contracts, you've got all your renewals. Now you're like, okay, great. What do I do now? So you can actually get renewal intelligence because we connect with a pricing database or price benchmarking database. So you get like live price benchmarking across all your software spend, and we're expanding into other categories. So you can actually see, okay, for example, folks, if Salesforce is hiking their prices by 15% by December 12th, so like go and early renew those prices just for a heads up. That's probably going to save you some money as you do this. So we constantly have that showing up as well. So and the most important element is for everybody in the ecosystem, your end users, your finance, IT team, everybody, when you want to buy something within the organization, the quickest piece is, and you need to put in a procurement request. So you can actually customize all of these request forms and intake forms, and it's all dynamic. So that means you can actually pick which subsidiary. I'm just going to say US West. You can actually pick which vendor. So this actually pulls from your vendor master from your ERP. Soon, Rillet will also be live now as well, and make that happen. And then you'll actually have all your products by SKU so that you can actually report across it. And I'm just gonna put this in really quick. This also pulls from your HRMS, so all your data is actually really seamless on that standpoint as well. And I'm sure you're all familiar, like when you get a procurement request and somebody reaches out to buy something, the first thing you ask is, why am I buying this? Who's buying this? Who are you buying this for? What am I going to use this for? As any good CFO is going to ask. So we built an AI summary agent. So what it'll actually tell you is it'll tell you what the summary of that request is, what's going on, who's buying it, why are they buying it, and it'll also link to all the documents associated with it. But the critical piece is because we're an orchestration platform, and I can show you the workflow for what that looks like. You can actually build this entire visual workflow along the way, and you can actually edit it on the fly as well. So as you can see, every step and every task can actually be an integration. So we're actually able to pull and push data from these various systems so that you can actually build that workflow along the way as well. So this should give you a good idea of like how think about it like procurement in a new age way. So we've thought about anything ingesting contracts. You can actually ask questions across your entire spend database as well, but also your procurement data across your contracts, security documents, as well as spend information. And you have a 360-degree view of all your vendors and how you actually manage them as well with our AI assistant. That's a quick summary of what we could do, but I will let Riya take it over from here.
Sounds great. And thank you, Sid. That was great to see. We actually have a great question in from one of our attendees. I thought that would actually be a really good place to kick off some Q&A. So the question is, what are the pros and cons of leveraging your existing tools, which are creating agentic capabilities, versus building agentic workflows yourself in a separate agent creation platform? So anyone want to chime in on that first?
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in there. I think it's a really good question. I'd say like in general, if you can find a tool that does it for you, that's probably best. You could spend a lot of time building it yourself, and you have to like maintain it as well. But it also depends on your use case specifically. So we've got one customer who has quite a lot of paper checks they have to collect from customers, and it's quite a pain, right? And they have to reconcile these checks with their bank, and there's no obviously like easy way to get check data into Rillet, for example. They all go to some random PO box in California. So what they've done is create like with ChatGPT, like literally an agent that links up to the PDFs, which come in, scanned from their bank it will read the checks directly, populate that into a CSV that they can import into Rillet. So it's a good story to hear of like when he initially built it, it didn't work well, right? But then the new model came out, ChatGPT 5, whatever it was, and then like he ran it again and it worked consistently. So it was something that took maybe, 5 to 30 minutes a day for him. And now it's like fully automated, with that kind of agent that he built. So this is like a controller, right? Not familiar with systems, doesn't know how to code, right? But using ChatGPT to build something that's helpful. So those things are the kind of stuff that's probably easier to build directly than like pay a vendor for it, but then you still have to maintain it, right? So it kind of depends on the use case, whether or not you should kind of build it versus buy it.
I have some thoughts on this as well of like, some of the things in systems you're using in theory could be built with external agent platforms. I think one distinction for me is, we'll create custom agents in, agent builder platforms or with GPT or Claude when there's a task that is kind of pretty much autonomous and runs in the same way all the time. So, go into my LinkedIn and pull this list for me. And it doesn't really require much human intervention. I think, custom agents somewhere in a horizontal agent platform can work really well for some of those use cases. I think where, like, when we think about some of our agent workflows in Sequence, one of the things we have coming soon is a dunning agent. And that dunning agent is helping you manage cash collection. And it's not that it's just you set it up once and you give it some instructions and it runs. It is constantly interfacing with you when it has exceptions that come up and it wants you, sometimes you want to treat things manually. You might say, don't send reminders if this is marked as a sensitive customer, and you need to be notified in the platform that actually they're overdue, but you might want to handle that manually. That's just one example of where agent is interacting with human as part of a workflow. And I think for those types of workflows, they're far better to have within the platform that you're operating in, whether it's your CRM or whether it's your revenue platform, versus some of the things which, might be, scripts that you're running or more repetitive autonomous tasks that you can kind of set up in the side and have run.
We can go back.
I guess kind of turning tact a little bit, I guess maybe actually everybody here is building platforms with a fairly broad product surface area, and there's a lot of different agentic workflows you could have prioritized. I'm just curious to hear your kind of decision framework as to how you think about where to prioritize,
Yeah.
leveraging LLMs and building agentic workflows. And actually, in line with that, what's one thing your customers ask your agents to do that they can't yet handle or you're thinking about in the future?
Yeah, maybe I can go first on this. I think for us, across say the procure to pay kind of life cycle, if you think about it, uh, it has a ton of documents and across that entire life cycle. So we've really been focusing on how we can move these documents and also use these documents in order to actually to make better decisions across that landscape. That's one, and that's one framework that we've been using. And then the second one is wherever we have categorization work or we have to like figure out, oh man, like we have this is actually what the vendor is, this is what the spend is, this is what we need to really categorize. Wherever there's like a very deterministic output on the agents, they tend to do a very good job. And the third is like from just a user experience perspective as well. Ideally, I don't want to walk into another platform and use another platform, to be honest. I'd like to make it work where I'm already working. So we've been, and also make it conversational, right? Like because of ChatGPT, everything you want everything to be that same experience. So because of natural language, and you can actually do that. Our goal is to like make sure that like you can make it in like in your Slack, your Teams, or email and actually speak to like a procurement analyst rather than like actually deal with a procurement platform, right? So I think those are the three things that we're thinking about on how we think about where to apply AI. Some of the things it doesn't work with, and we failed miserably, I would say, is we tried building like like an approvals agent, right? Like it'll actually follow up on approvals because it's annoying, like because it's just people don't reply to notifications, like they don't like just approve on time, but it's super hard. It's actually ridiculously hard because like you might change that approval, somebody might reply, it has to learn on the fly. There's a lot of like unknowns in the middle. and it's not necessarily as easy, I would say, to go get that done, versus I read a document and I actually have to post some information, and there's like manual repetitive work I need to do. Agents shine over there. Agents don't do a really good job on the other side yet, I would say.
Yeah, if I could jump on the back of that, I think we've all touched on the importance of surfacing the right context to agents. And I think when we think about where we place our bets from an agentic standpoint, it's where do we have like an unfair advantage to surface, to leverage the context we already have. So for us, that's the product and SKU data, the contract, the quote. So when we get to things like detecting billing or invoicing anomalies, we know what was already quoted, what was already on the contract. So we have all the context needed when finance goes to send out an invoice. It's like, wait, hang on, your sales team actually quoted there was a 3 month free trial. You're in month 2 of the contract and you're currently sending out an invoice for $5,000. Like, are you sure? So because we have that context, that's a great application, I think, of an agentic layer on top. We're not going to place a bet on something that maybe relies more on. I think we touched on. Stephen was touching on like reconciliations, for example. Like maybe that's an area where right now, like we're not necessarily looking at your bank feed directly. So we're not going to place a bet on that stage right now. The Dunning agent that Rhea just mentioned is a great example. We have all the invoicing data. We have all of your customers in sequence. We have all of your contracts. We can set customer level data very easily. When we start to see teams go into GPT and Claude and set up custom projects, taking data out of sequence and then creating custom workflows, that's like a screaming flag for us. Like that's a massive opportunity for us to bring that into the product. And we saw that with Dunning agents. We saw people setting up a Claude project or a GPT project for certain customers with their invoices and saying, all right, this implementation is actually going really well. We're willing to follow up if invoices aren't paid. In other cases, it's like, this is our biggest enterprise logo. We're willing to cut them slack. Like we don't want any drafts to be sent for the first 6 months. So I think again, like that's how we would think about like a screaming green flag for us to be pretty aggressive in terms of our LLM bets.
Wow, that's cool. On the cloud piece, I'm curious, did you see the connection? Did the customer tell you they were doing it? Like how did you find out they had built kind of their own system for this and you should build into it?
So I think anytime we start getting like feature requests for new features, like the immediate response is like, okay, well, like how are you doing this today? Let's understand the status quo and like what's like the gold standard like that we could work towards the next few months. And then like a few people actually start to screen share and say, well, actually I'm playing around with this and like it actually kind of works quite well, but obviously like it's not ideal that I have to keep exporting data from sequence, maybe pulling that into an LLM, setting up a custom project. So I think it's just like kind of doing that discovery when you get some of these feature requests and not just saying like, okay, got it, we'll build that, but like trying to understand like what their dream state is and trying to build towards that state.
I have a question here from Carlos. Hey, Carlos, by the way. It's been a while since I've seen you. As a CFO, I would like to have either a human in the loop or an AI agent to detect miscommunications between the finance stack software tools or anomalies, mistakes, gaps. My preference is for the latter, AI agent. Are your tools open for the interaction with tailor-made AI agents on the outside?
Yeah, I can start here. It's a really good question. I'd say for really like some use cases, yes. The one I'd like to see next for us is like our accruals agent, for example. So right now, like I showed, like it'll estimate the accruals for you. The next step for us is to like take it to the next level where you could say, hey, I actually want, 5 months for this vendor and 3 months for this vendor, and I actually don't include this vendor this month for this reason, right? Like have some back and forth with it directly. So you can interact with it that way. Because like the same way you would with kind of a junior employee or junior accounting manager. That's kind of next phase for us. So right now it's a pretty basic agent, but where we're headed is like that more kind of communication style, because that's when you'll really start to save both like time and energy is when you can do the interaction like you would with a junior employee.
I think, like, actually, on that point, people often talk about agents in terms of driving efficiency and saving time, but actually, in the finance domain, anomaly detection and actually making humans more accurate, because by the way, humans are not actually always completely accurate, is a big opportunity for us. We see this as an opportunity to. We're kind of building an invoice review agent, which will do a first pass on your invoices when they're issued at the end of the month to check for any potential kind of inconsistencies, flags, anomalies. And again, I think the fact that that agent is trained on the data, that it's, all of the invoice history, all of that contract history and understands the context makes that agent much better placed to detect anomalies than a tool on the outside. Actually, Carlos, I'm curious on your question. Is the question more about us building capabilities within our own softwares to detect anomalies or mistakes, or actually thinking about external agents being able to audit platforms. I'm not sure if Carlos is still around. Anyway, maybe one that's food for thought. I had one final closing question. We have 2 minutes left. So actually, we just got one in from Daniel. So when you say the agent is trained and the data, you don't mean literally trained, but these things are brought into context each time, correct?
Oh, good question. So for us, it like means quite literally trained is we'll have like in your cash reconciliation, for example, right? Like the AI will literally like learn from your data to match better the next time, right? And so it's not just bringing in the context, say that one time, but if you categorize this transaction specifically, to, I don't know, this vendor goes to software in this department, it will learn that and do it that next time, right? So it's literally getting trained on your underlying data and applying it on a go forward basis.
On our end, we think about a distinction between system level training and custom configuration by our customers when they embed these agents. So for us, system level training is us training those AI agents to understand these finance specific tasks. But then a company will come with their own custom instructions, like, to Enda's point, I don't want to chase customers if they've just signed up in the last 3 months. Actually, like, can you use a softer tone on the messages that you send? Whatever it is that like that drives your own kind of nuanced business logic. And then the agent gets further trained with that kind of custom nuance.
Yeah. I think it's very similar for us as well. Like it's custom on from the customer standpoint, but like we do have system level training to make sure that it's actually is learning on the way forward. And we ended up having like we call it the forward deployed engineering team now, but we've always had this team, which is essentially they do the work for the customers when they're going live. We're helping the customers adjust as we go live as well and train. So. But like they help train the system as well.
One final point that we don't have time to get into today, but maybe it's food for thought. Very often I think we will get the questions of, well, but why can't a NetSuite or a Maxio or some traditional incumbent just add an AI layer on, and I think the truth is like firstly, you kind of need the fundamental like data schema and architecture to really be able to support agentic patterns and workflows from the ground up. And it's very hard to retrofit. But I also think just from an innovation standpoint, to embed these things into the workflow naturally is not easy. Like it's actually like you're adding like an extra person almost alongside you in this platform that's trying to assist you. And I do think that's where we also see a really big kind of gap between where we will see kind of incumbent innovation and where we will see, let's say, next gen CFO stack players innovate. So on that note, thank you to all of these amazing panelists for a great job. And for anyone who wishes to follow up, please do so.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Happy
Cheers,
Thursday.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.